Thank you very much, Natalie. We did not break a temperature record in Toronto yesterday. Came close. The nation's hotspot was St. Catharines yesterday at nearly 23 degrees. So we've had some heat, but now things have changed. So let's turn it over to Kevin and find out what it's like in Cambridge. Yeah, those old churches are beautiful. Thank you so much, Kevin. Let's take a look at our short-term forecast. Things get very interesting, by the way, on Friday. It's modified Arctic air, and it's headed our way. And when will that come in? Well, it begins to make its track in now, in fact, but really more so into Friday. It is going to be very chilly. And of course, this is Halloween. The low pressure system, once it hits the Great Lakes, really starts to draw some moisture and it gets some energy. It's actually going to eventually merge with a low off the Carolinas that becomes a weather maker for Atlantic Canada. But throughout this time frame here of Friday, it's going to be very interesting. Friday, of course, is Halloween. So looking at the afternoon, this is when parents are scrambling to get home, right, to get things underway. Still raining across southern Ontario, warm enough for rain, but it's snowing up toward North Bay, Timmins, and Sudbury, North Bay, some mixing. But Toronto, yeah, for the evening period, we're going to have northwest winds. It will be brisk. The winds will be picking up in strength as the evening progresses. So if you can head out earlier, that would probably be the best option. And we will see some mixing north of Toronto and some rain along the lower lakes. Today is Wednesday. The next installment of Storm Hunters is on its way tonight, exclusively on the Weather Network. I want to give you a sneak peek, though. This time we're talking about monster hurricanes. Have a look. Kasia Badurka is checking out paranormal activity. Of course, this is the time of year things start to get spooky, don't they? I'll give you the scary forecast in a moment. But first, let's turn it over to Kasia in Oshawa. You have piqued my interest. Thank you very much, Kasia. I think a lot of people at home want to hear about that. Those who are cold like me. We have this trough coming through southern Ontario. Really, the pattern is one where we're tapping into some modified Arctic air from the Northwest Territories and from Nunavut, and it's making its way in. Low pressure system gains some energy here, some strength, some moisture around the Great Lakes Basin. Once it reaches us by Friday, that's going to have an impact on our Halloween. For the afternoon period across southern Ontario, staying warm enough for rain, but what gets interesting is the evening period. Mixing across a large portion of southern Ontario, around the lower lakes, right along the lake shores, expected to stay as rain. Beautiful shots there. Thank you so much for that, Kim. Yesterday, we had temperatures that were so mild. And in one case, actually down by St. Catharines, it's all about the changes that are underway as the temperatures drop. Let's go to Kevin right now in Cambridge. Yeah, I like it. Well, Halloween, kids, costumes, it's all underway, right? If you haven't already secured your costume and gotten all of that organized, you've got a couple more days ahead to get that done. But the low pressure system's coming in weather-wise, some impact on the forecast for Friday. So let's pick it up here. This low pressure system does join force with a low in the Carolinas and makes its way up toward Atlantic Canada with a strengthening low. But what about us? What kind of impact will that have for Halloween afternoon with this low? Rain, warm enough for rain across the southern tier of the province by that time frame. But what gets interesting is for the evening. We're going to have northwest winds picking up in strength as the evening progresses. So for the little ones, say between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., the winds shouldn't be so bad, but it will increase as the evening progresses. We may even have some mixing, some rain expected. Probably if you're downtown Toronto, it would be okay, but north of the city, expected to see some mix possible. Thank you so much for that, Natalie. And the temperatures for us, we're declining. We're going to get awfully chilly by the time we even get to Friday, which is Halloween, and some interesting developments that could impact the trick-or-treating hours. Let's talk about that in a moment. First, so we'll check in with Kasia in Oshawa. Ooh, thank you very much for that, Kasia. Appreciate that. We have a low pressure system. It's meteorologically cooling here. Nothing to do with the spiritual world in this case, all physical. We do have this low pressure system coming through. It's gaining strength, it's gaining energy and moisture. With that, it's going to result in some rain for southern Ontario by the time we get to Friday afternoon. I want to get to the type maps because this is where it gets interesting. Rain across the south where it's warm enough in the afternoon period for those last minute Halloween preparations. The parents are getting home to get everything organized. But by Halloween evening, yes, mixing is expected. We could even be transitioning to snowfall by this time frame, evening and through the overnight. It was at precisely this time of year 2 years ago that Superstorm Sandy impacted New York City and New Jersey. And we have, of course, storm hunters every Wednesday throughout the month of October. This time we're talking about monster hurricanes, including Sandy. Here's a preview. And now in terms of the forecast moving forward to Friday, which is Halloween, we've got some cooler air that is settling in. First, though, let's check in outside with Kevin in Cambridge. Thank you, Kevin. Well, despite it being a little cool, I saw someone sitting on the patio there having a coffee or a latte. We do have a low pressure system that is headed our way, and so big changes are coming as we have precipitation, yes, but it could also be in the form of some mixing and snowfall. Yes. So here comes the low. I want to show you that it also joins forces with a low that strengthens and moves off into Atlantic Canada. I want to get to this, though, because this is the big story. For the Halloween afternoon period, rain across southern Ontario and southern Quebec, including Montreal, Gatineau seeing that, and then mixing in North Bay, some snow in Timmins and Sudbury and Elliott Lake by the time we get to this time frame. But look at the evening. Southern Ontario mixing, northwest winds picking up in strength as the evening progresses. So for the little young kids who are heading out earlier in the evening, the winds shouldn't be too bad, but they'll be picking up in strength as the evening goes on. So for the older kids, this may be not the best weather. We've got mixing potential. Some snowfall will be developing by this time frame up into the Dundalk Highlands, the Haliburton Highlands. We're going to be seeing some snowfall, probably even having that snow linger right through until Saturday morning. Did you enjoy the heat that we saw for one day only yesterday across southern Ontario? We had the nation's hotspot in St. Catharines yesterday. Did not break a record, though. Well, let's go to Kasia, though. She's in Oshawa as we take a look at the conditions there. Thank you, Kasia. Well, the low pressure system is in the process of developing. It's not doing much in the prairies, but as it gets closer to the Great Lakes Basin, it does pick up more energy, more strength, more moisture, and it progresses through with rainfall across southern Ontario and some mixing. I'll show you the maps in just a moment. But there's a low pressure system that's going to develop off the eastern U.S. seaboard. The low from Ontario joins forces with it, and off it goes and strengthens. So that will be a big story there. For us, when it does pass through, it's rainfall for the most part across the south. Then the mixing begins. This is even through the afternoon. The mixing begins in North Bay. Sudbury and Timmins are likely to be in the snowfall by Friday afternoon. So some cold air in place. We've already seen snow in northwestern Ontario the last couple of days. And then for the evening period, that's when everything changes over, almost everything changes over to a mix. Northwest winds setting up here. The temperatures will drop. We have mixing. We have snowfall developing. And the winds will pick up in strength as the evening goes on. So for the little ones, we're heading out, say, 6 p.m. The winds shouldn't be as bad, but by 8, 9 p.m., the winds will be picking up in strength.
Boy, I bet you can hardly wait to find out where that's going to be. And I'll bet no matter where you are, you hope it's you. I would too. I mean, selfishly, I would too. There's no doubt about it. This system that we're talking about, this nor'easter that we're looking at for the weekend, looking right now, and the buzz is that this could be storm watch worthy because of its potential impact.
The low pressure system that will be developing, actually it's in the process of developing in the prairies right now, but it really gets going, has more energy once it reaches the Great Lakes Basin. It joins forces with this and really just helps to invigorate that even further. And so at this point, so this is now looking at Sunday, it will be in the process of strengthening and all kind of coming together. And on the backside, that's where it gets very interesting for New Brunswick. Some special weather statements from EC on that, saying that we could be looking at excessive amounts of snow.
Millimeters. Here's something though: 102 millimeters of rain in Squamish, and of course, you've driven the sea to sky. I've driven the sea to sky. As soon as you go from Vancouver through Squamish to Whistler, you start getting into the guardrails because you start thinking about rock slides, possible pebble slides, which could damage cars. 30 more millimeters expected. Yeah, exactly. And Vancouver is going to be getting a bunch of rain as well, especially into tomorrow. We looked ahead to the forecast. Let's go to, now we're going to take a look at Metro Toronto.
Halloween now, looking to Friday and to see whether or not or where in terms of major city centers would we see the best weather. Just a quick mention for this evening across the east, it's cool.
Yep, 10 to 15 degrees. You're looking at approaching the teens in the Atlantic provinces. Temperatures are now bouncing back up again, 11, 12 degrees around the lower Great Lakes through the prairies, warming up to the west. You will warm up eventually in the eastern prairies. Vancouver, high of 14, and there's all the rain we can expect. Halloween is where we end this.
Nodding, yes, I do, actually. Hopefully you enjoy the temperatures or have enjoyed the temperatures we've had because it's been above average. But now this afternoon, Toronto, 11. Now, in terms of where we go from here, it's getting a lot colder, that's for sure. Yesterday, St. Catharines was the national hotspot at nearly 23 degrees. So we are definitely looking at a decline in our temperatures. The temperature contrast again from the north. In fact, Geraldton has picked up 15 centimeters of snow. Yes, I kid you not. Well, all of that cold air is filtering down, and it's not going to be impacting us just yet, but by the time we get to Friday, that's when things begin to change. So that mixing line reaches North Bay, Sudbury, Timmins in the snowfall by Halloween afternoon, and then by the evening, we have a changeover from rain to mixing of rain and snow, so some wet snow. We're not necessarily looking at accumulations at this point in the evening, but there will be some wet snowflakes falling from the sky for some, maybe not in Toronto proper, but outside of the city, heading back toward Kitchener-Waterloo and down toward London. Yeah, we could be getting some mixing even up toward Peterborough and the Kawarthas and the Dundalk Highlands. We'll definitely be picking up some snowfall overnight Friday and into Saturday, so the winds from the northwest will be picking up. We've got temperatures here that are definitely cool. We have your long range or detailed analysis of the nor'easter in Atlantic Canada coming up.
But where is it going to be? I don't even want to give you a hint. I want you to stay with us. You've got to check this out. You know, we talk about the 20 days of rain in Vancouver. It's not like it's been rainy for the past 20 days. There have been some epic rainfalls marred within that. And we're looking at a similar story in the Atlantic provinces.
Yeah, keep in mind, the wind has been such an issue as well. The winds are going to be picking up in strength in Atlantic Canada from our nor'easter, which will be, it hasn't even started to develop yet, but we know it's going to based on computer model data. Low pressure system in Ontario that sweeps by, brings some colder air in with it, is going to merge with that, and it's going to be a strengthening storm. We'll have to watch closely.
Model data still not agreeing 100% with this one. Of course, we've been talking about that. It's essentially right now we have 3 lows, 1, 2, and 3. So how are they going to play out? Will all 3 hit at different intervals, or will they merge at once into one, which could be a real powerful nor'easter? Preliminary data coming out right now within all of this green has really heavy wet snow falling places in New Brunswick. So we're going to stick with that story. 102 millimeters of rain in Squamish right now. And I mean, we can talk about the island, but there's another 15 to 30 millimeters in that one spot again.
So the break is not long lasting in southwest BC, but we're going to be seeing more rain coming through today. So what does this all mean in terms of the forecast as we look to Vancouver? Well, Saturday, that's the only day in the 7-day that we actually see some sunshine.
That one day. All right, take a look across the rest of the country. So through the afternoon, 11 degrees in Toronto, gets a bit better. Montreal up to 14 degrees. Clear across the prairies. The rain in Vancouver we were talking about.
No precipitation.
I was looking at Halifax at first. Of course, now we're talking about this massive nor'easter, so you're off the map. We're going to go back to Calgary. Actually, 9 degrees for trick-or-treat, but look what it's going to be in the middle of the day on Friday. 15 degrees. The hot spot across the country on Halloween.
Stay with us. We have your local forecast coming up. Thank you, Kevin. Well, those seasonal temperatures this evening are going to be 7 degrees we expect in Toronto. But what's interesting, we'll look at the snapshot of this, okay, and then I'll just show you the overnight. So wind chills are starting to pop up on these maps too, right? Down toward Hamilton and Kitchener-Waterloo, it's going to feel close, if not slightly below freezing through as well. These are the peak wind gusts that we experienced on Tuesday. Kitchener came in at 56 kilometers per hour, Hamilton at 72. That was more so in the mid to late afternoon. Toronto at 63 kilometer per hour gusts, so some winds. Now, as we head into Friday now, being Halloween, everyone's wondering about the winds. Well, this afternoon, when we look at the conditions, we're seeing things calm down. However, there's a new low coming in, and that one will help to bring up the winds once again. Now, timing on this, Friday, throughout the afternoon, we are looking actually at some rainfall, some light rain across southern Ontario. The winds at this point will not have picked up quite yet. It's not until the evening, and we're talking about later in the evening and overnight, that the winds really get going. They'll be from the north and west, and so as a result of that, mixing is possible even through the evening period. So for those who are taking their young children out to go trick-or-treating early in the evening, so 6, 7 p.m., kind of in that time frame. The winds probably won't be so bad, but then after, say, 8 to 9 to 10, you don't trick-or-treating that late, unless you're 6 feet tall, but you will be certainly running into some colder air, and the winds will be picking up in strength at that period. So snowfall in Sudbury, in North Bay, too. We've already picked up 15 centimeters in Geraldton and north of Superior. So just to give you an indication that the cold air is out there.